welcome everybody to another episode of the Haunted Vermont podcast. My name is Paul Doski, and joining us is a very awesome author, I would say, who's written a lot of books, who's also a paranormal investigator for 41 years, and countless books, I would say, that it has been based on like New England and stuff. So, without further ado, this is Tom D'Agostino.
How you doing?
Good, Tom. Good. I hope you're having better weather than what Vermonters are dealing with right now with unfortunately the flood weather.
Yeah, I heard about that. Wow, yeah.
So, Tom. So, real quick. I mean, I've just was kind of going through your bio on your website, tomdagostino.com. I guess, in your own words, how would you explain yourself to somebody?
Well, I'm a paranormal investigator, author. My wife and I, we've written like 18 books together, and we've been all over the place. We've seen a million things, seen a lot of nothing. And we run a business called Dining with the Dead 1031, where we go into the most haunted places around New England. And we have dinner and we get to investigate the most haunted areas, but you're the investigator. So we break into groups and everybody investigates, and using all the equipment, we show them how to use it. And basically, we still do private investigations and all that kind of stuff and live to adventure.
Fair enough. That's easy put. So you and your wife are mainly going around doing all the spooky stuff and everything. So what kind of got you into the field of the paranormal to begin with?
First, I actually grew up in a haunted house. I was about 22 years old when my friend, I was in college, and my friend goes, "Hey, I just bought a house really cheap, and I need someone to live in it for the winter because I'm going to turn it over, flip it." So I said, "Yeah, I'll do that." And so I moved in. I lasted 6 days. There was so much stuff going on in this house that I couldn't get any sleep. I couldn't study. And then so I started studying basically all kinds of sciences, physical sciences, social sciences, esoterical sciences, just to see why and what, So it wasn't something like I just went out and, saw a movie or something, say, I'm going to do this. I studied for a few years to see if there were any kind of logical explanations.
Fair enough. So I guess while you've been living there, what were some of the stuff that was going on? Like with stuff like levitating, lifting, were you shifting around, or just like random, footsteps, shadow figures?
One night I heard this crackling noise, and it sounded what I thought was a branch banging up against the window in the parlor. And when I walked in the parlor, there was just this glowing figure standing there in the darkness in the far corner. But it was like almost sounded like it was crackling, and it started moving toward me. And then I turned on the light, and it was gone. Then another night, my friend who was going out with my sister at the time and our cousin, we were sitting at the top of the stairs of this house. It was 3 floors, and we were on the 3rd floor at this point. And somebody it sounded like they tore the door open at the bottom of the stairs and came bolting up the stairs after us. And all we felt was a wind go by us.
Wow.
And then, yeah, one of the biggest things that's happened, never happened since. I mean, it's been a long time, and it's never happened since, was when we were again in that same spot, and I was coming out of the kitchen. We were all just joking, and all of a sudden it was like somebody put us on pause. We all just froze, and the window at the top of the stairs came out of the frame and rolled across the floor. And then, boom, like we were snapped out of that spell. My sister and my cousin, they never even hit a stair going down. They were gone.
Huh.
So it was that kind of stuff that was happening.
So that, would you say that's almost, well, I don't know, it might be the right term, but would you consider that to almost be like a time warp or something?
I don't know. It would be more, if it was anything, it could be part residual, part maybe intelligent. Who knows, maybe several, because I never really got a chance to find out because we were out of there in 6 days, and then he sold the house and never moved in. So, and if I would talk to people later on, a few of the house went to a lot of owners, and they said that, yeah, things were going on in there, and it was, it was pretty haunted. And I have a picture I took of it while I was outside, and when I got it developed, you could see someone looking out the window at me in a long white dress, which
Huh.
is kind of odd because nobody should have been in the house.
Yeah, because it should have just been, as far as I know, you and maybe a couple other people.
Yeah, if they were going to be there, I should have been.
Yeah,
It was
exactly.
otherwise empty, I should say.
Well, that's interesting. I guess real quick is, since you've been investigating, what maybe one of the most, I would say, scariest thing, but what is the most cool? What to say? What's the most interesting experience that you've ever really seen or heard?
Well, some of the most interesting actually happened here in our house, which is kind of cool. And we've had all our friends from the TV shows. They're friends with ours. They've come over and investigated with us, and they're still stunned to this day at some of the things that happened. Uh, like we've seen like full-bodied apparitions just walk by while you're talking, just walk right through. Like okay, and so it is quite. This house is quite amazing. The wealthiest man in Putnam once owned it. But in other places, the Ramtail factory in Foster, Rhode Island, where we've actually seen what they call not only the lantern light, but the guy who makes his rounds in the ruins of the old factory. We actually had him. We actually saw him when they going when I traced back. You can see where the buildings were. Looked like he was going in and out of the waste shed, the old factory, and everything. Like actually doing rounds by candlelight. And one of the wildest things that ever happened to us was we were doing an old factory in Greenville, Rhode Island. We were on the third floor where nobody goes up there. And
Huh.
and my friend owned the storage place below on the first floor. So while we were up there, I said, "Can you show us a sign?" And there's no electricity up there, so we had our spotlights, and we were in the middle of the floor. And all of a sudden, it was like somebody was either slamming chains, the machines were starting up. They were all around us, bang, bang, all around us. And we left. We went downstairs after about a minute or so of this, and it stopped. And we went and we left the recorder. When we went to retrieve it, my friend went to the other end of the room. Again, no electricity, it's dark. All of a sudden, you hear this thing go flying across the room and hit the floor. It's something threw something at him. But it was 11 at night. There was nobody in that building. So it was pretty interesting.
Did you ever find whatever was thrown?
It was a board. You could tell it was a giant 2x4 by the way it hit. And when we looked over there, yeah, and he was afraid to move because he was afraid if he gave away his position, next time he might get hit.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if I'd want to move either with that. Um, you know, just for since we're on the topic of throwing stuff real quick, they say like cryptid, especially like Sasquatch, Bigfoot, they say like they throw stuff at people to either scare them or something. So I mean, in this case, it sounds like you guys are dealing with a poltergeist versus something physical.
Yeah, well, when that happened, the next day I told my friend, and he said, "Really?" He goes, "That's interesting because that used to be my brother used to work there when he was in high school, and when it was actually open, the upstairs, the third floor, and my friend was hired to replace the windows up there because they were falling out and it was a blight, and the town's like, fix this." So the guy gave him, said, "I'll pay you $1,500 to replace the windows." Like, this is great. I just go upstairs after I close my store, and he lasted one set of windows because while he was up there and he had the big spotlight, the commercial spotlight, all of a sudden it sounded like somebody was slamming chains around him. The same exact sound.
Hmm.
And the
Wow.
people at the antique store, they were given free reign to store stuff up there, and they bolted the door up instead and boarded it because they actually were, heard the whatever is up there, the noisy ghosts. Sounds like the mill was back in business. That's all.
Back in business. Well, yeah. Well, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, I guess, however you want to look at that.
Well, ghost carpeting, whatever.
There you go. That's a new one. Yeah, I'll have to remember that one. That's funny. Um, Yeah, so Tom, like I guess let's go into your like adventure of haunted Vermont as you put with your
Hmm.
book that I finally got a hold of finally. So you and your wife obviously have been traveling, as you said. So what kind of what I guess gravitated you to like the Green Mountain State?
Well, when we first started, we started with Rhode Island, which is where we're from. And it was like, wow, no one ever did a book on New Hampshire or Vermont. They're like, where are they all? I'm sure the places are lots of haunts and cool places. So we're like, well, let's do these. So we started doing one on each state. We never did Maine though, because a lady, T.M. Gray, did an awesome book on Maine. She lives there her whole life and covered it. And we're like, fine, leave that one alone. But in Vermont, it was like, wow, these people would love to probably go visit places. Let's go find and dig. So, we started digging, and I'm part of the New England Historical Society and other societies. And we started visiting. We're like, wow, this is like very interesting. Each state has their own kind of interesting haunts, collection of haunts in many cases. And Vermont was no different. So we were like, we loved it. We were going all over the place. And actually, one side of my family's from Swanton, Vermont.
Oh, cool. That's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't
the
even
French
know.
side.
Yeah, I don't know how bad Swanton just got hit with the flood, but I mean, hopefully everybody's okay. So, I just know there's a couple places for the flood that is
Uh,
underwater right now, so it's pretty bad.
wow.
Yeah, they're actually calling it worse than Irene, which kind of sucks. So,
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is
yeah,
bad.
yeah.
Mm.
But Swanton, yeah, that's a nice little town. I've only been through it maybe once in my life. But maybe one day I can always go back.
Yeah, that's
So,
up there. It's right on the border.
yeah, that's quite a drive, but it's still worth it though. Um, so I guess your wife who's going with you, she helped you do photograph for each place, correct?
Yeah, she's a professional photographer. Yeah.
All right. Well, from what I've seen from some of the pictures that are in here, because it looks like every now and then there's not a picture, which is fine. But I mean, I completely get it. But either way, some of these are really like sketchy looking and stuff like that. So I guess I wanted to dive in a little bit of some places that maybe have some information that I'm kind of familiar with, and maybe we can get you to add a little bit more to help bring it into more of a spectrum of like why is there like a weird tale here. Like one example that you may have heard of, Tom, is Lake Bomazine.
Oh, yeah.
um there's uh, I mean I let me see real quick. Yeah, oh yeah, you do actually mention it too, which is that famous story about how there's like a phantom rowboat
Yeah. Yeah.
where
The
these.
Irish immigrants that disappeared, never to be seen again.
Yeah, and that's all we can really get. So, did you ever uh, find out like was it just were they trying to go get some drinks for their party or something, and then when they went back, that's where they seem to have vanished into the I guess the fog or mist.
Yeah, they probably went like to that bar. There were the taverns and bars and stuff. And on the way back, I mean, it's not like every day, but it's not uncommon that people, even down in Rhode Island, we are, you're the ocean state, go out on a boat all wasted, and the next thing you know, where are they? So it's happened before. Unfortunately, it's happened to some people we know, but it's. I mean, how many people used to row across there to that tavern probably every night? And that
Yeah,
one
that's
time
true.
it happened, and well, now they appear all the time.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just fascinating because you don't really hear too many stories about vanishing on water until like lately, I guess. Like when you really start to look at it, there's a lot more disappearances on the water than there is anywhere else, it seems like. So I don't know if you get that same idea.
Yeah, well, what happens is people like that sometimes, if there's three or four people, and one falls in, and the other goes to save him, and then or something happens, the boat half slips, and they're all wasted, and they can't swim. We've had instances where in my old town where a few people drowned in 3 feet of water because they get tangled in the weeds.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, those weeds are quite dangerous, especially when they
So,
wrap
you know,
around.
you can fall in, you can be a great swimmer, but if you start getting tangled in some of those things, and oh,
Yeah, it's. I find it really interesting how thick and strong the weeds can actually be to just pull you down. I guess per se. Um,
yeah, well, if
like
you move and they start wrapping around you, then you're rolling downward, and they're wrapping you deeper in. Yes.
yeah, that's weird all on its own, and but yes, I mean that could be a good way to debunk the theories of why ghostly things happen like that or why they disappeared. Is maybe like you said, somebody fell in. They tried to they tried to rescue them, and next thing you know, instead of one guy, you got two guys that are going down, so or three, depending
Yeah,
on what it is.
maybe they got into an argument and started pushing each other over.
That's very true. That's very true. Speaking of like I'm pretty sure I mean, you must have mentioned it, but if not, I mean, I'm pretty sure you're familiar anyway. But it's Lake Champlain. You know, uh, we hear about like the Phantom ships there, and we also got the well-known Lake Monster Champ, stuff like that. Are you kind of familiar with anything uh, uh regarding those?
Well, yeah, I did. I think I did put Champ in there in some of the cases because actually, my wife's daughter lived right on Lake Champlain in Burlington, Vermont, for several years. So definitely, we had a lot really cool, couple of stories there for Lake Champlain, which is interesting. Um,
Indeed.
yeah, Champ. They're not sure what he is, what it is, with he or she, Champ. And the Ghost Ship, I'm not too familiar with that one, but it definitely I've read about it.
Yeah, it was something. It involved the steamboat Phoenix. I
Oh,
want to
okay.
say where supposedly the captain wouldn't let this specific woman on board, and so the legend basically said that this woman cursed the boat, and basically a fire struck out on the steamboat Phoenix, and basically met its doom in Lake Champlain.
Well, hey, you gotta. I mean, well, you gotta let people on board, right? They all curse you all the time. Yeah, I can tell you how many stories we have like that. The ship went down because the old lady on the dock cursed it. Interesting. I think I've read about that. I definitely read about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I know author C.O. Lewis mentioned something on it, and so that's the
Okay.
really
Yeah.
about that's about the only author that I know of that may have mentioned something about a ghost ship. So I thought that was interesting nonetheless because you always hear about like the one we were just talking about, the Phantom rowboat from Lake Bomazeen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't think you would ever expect like an actual ship to be lingering around Lake Champlain. But then again, look how many shipwrecks are in Lake Champlain, over 300 or so.
Oh yeah. Huh. Wow.
Yeah, yeah. It's crazy. I guess, Tom, instead of me just like maybe mentioning specific locations, but like, is there any locations in Vermont that you would like to tell your story of what really fascinated you around Vermont? I guess, like, just real quick, I'll just throw one more, which is actually the cover of your book, the Bowman Mansion
Oh
from
yeah.
Cunningville. Like, obviously we know that one pretty well. With Mr. Bowman's final will was basically, he wanted his uh, servants, I'll say, caretakers to basically keep setting dinner plates out, so even after death, him and his family could come and eat and stuff like that.
Yeah. Very interesting. And actually, the mausoleum is awesome. If you ever been to it.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm inside. It looks like it just keeps going and going with the use of mirrors and things. Yeah, but it's really awesome, and the story's awesome too. I mean, John Porter Bowman. Then, of course, Laurel Hill, it's closed, but it's open if you're lucky enough to get somebody near there to let you in. But I like the story of the little girl who stuck her tongue out of the picture and it flew out at her.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
and different things about that with the marble mortar they call it, which is really cool how he had that done. And so it's always like when we go by, if we're in that area, we always have to go by and stop
That's
and visit.
basically what I got to do. I got to always stop and pay my respect to Mr. Bowman
Mm.
and his family. I feel like,
One of
um, yeah.
yeah, one of the best ones. Oh, it's our favorites is in Reading, Vermont, the Spite Cemetery. There's
Hmm.
a Yeah, it's a really cool one. It's actually a bed and breakfast. It's called Bailey's Bed and Breakfast in Reading, Vermont. But there's a road. It is literally a road, even though it's like it looks like it's more like a dirt driveway, but it's a actual road. And right on the other side of that road slash dirt driveway is the big cemetery. And Levi Bailey owned the mill, and his home. And David Hapgood owned the land across the street. Now he thought, wow, if I could have that land, I could expand, right? And expand my mill, expand my operations. This would be great. But Hapgood hated him and wouldn't give him even like an inch of land. And so, Bailey said, hey, look, you're old, man. You're going to die before I do, and I'm going to get that land. So, yes, Mr. Hapgood does pass away before Levi Bailey does, but he goes to get the land. And they said, oh, no, he donated it as a cemetery. And to make it even more spiteful, they buried him right there in front of his face. He was the first one buried in the cemetery, right in front of Levi Bailey's house.
Wow.
So, yeah. So when Bailey finally died, he had a plot in the cemetery. So he did get a piece of the land.
In a
But
way,
yeah,
yeah. Yep. Oh, there it is. Yep. Now, yeah, I'm
yeah,
looking for it in the
that's a
book.
cool one. And of course, the Eddy family, which is just insanely, defies logic.
Oh yeah, yeah, the Eddy brothers. Yeah, William and Horatio Eddy. Yes.
Yeah, and Mary was another one, and Francis Lightfoot, he was another one. When he was in the Civil War, he got I think it was scarlet fever or tuberculosis. Yeah, it was consumption, and while he was sick in home, he wrote down the date, and the time he was going to die. And sometime in between, a wagon pulled up and brought a coffin with a plate on it, and they grabbed candles because they didn't have they didn't have big lighting and everything. And I don't even think kerosene had made it out to Vermont yet, because that was 1853 when kerosene was first introduced to the world. But they went and grabbed the candle. So when they got back, the coffin was gone, the two soldiers were gone, and the wagon was gone. When he died, they sent to Rutland to have a coffin made for him. And right while they're standing there, the same wagon pulls up with the same two soldiers who get out and put the same coffin in the hallway.
Huh.
And he
Wow.
died the exact day he said he was going to die.
That's crazy.
Yeah, well, his sister Miranda, after she died, they all witnessed her lift her hand up and close her own eyes.
Wow.
So yeah, so I mean, just the Eddies with William Eddy, having all these different spirits coming out of that little dinky closet of all different sizes, shapes, and men, women, and everything. And this guy was over 6 feet tall, and they couldn't even ever figure that out. So yeah, it's pretty wild. It's the High Life Ski Club now.
Yes, it is.
They let us in. They said, "Hey, you want to stay a night? Come on, stay a night. You can even sleep upstairs where they used to hold the seances." We've yet to go back and stay a night, but we'd love to.
Yeah, they're actually allowing people again to actually come over and spend a weekend now for like $60 a month or $60 a night, not a month. Sorry.
Jesus, that's a super bargain.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
A Motel 6 is 100.
Wow.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, not to cut you off, sorry, Tom, but I was gonna say real quick is I actually had the pleasure to go into the High Life Ski Lodge twice. Not to spend the night, but just to hang out with whoever was there that invited us in, and what a wonderful, lovely place inside, as I may say.
it
So.
is. It's cool. They got their little kitchen. You can bring your own food and your own little quarters to make your own stuff, and it's awesome.
Yeah, I love their broken bone meter that they have. So,
Oh yeah.
just in case more people just don't know, so Highway Ski Lodge, they do like special things like skiing, biking. They're like open all year round, so they don't just do one particular thing. So, they also are actually based out of New Jersey. I just forget where in New Jersey, but
Oh
I know
wow.
that's where they're based out of. Yeah. But yeah, we can't forget about the Eddie brothers. I guess, you know, so yeah, you don't have anything for Swanton, but is there anything that goes on in Swanton that would not unfortunately able to make it into the book?
um, Not that I really know of. I know in the area there is that nice, like that nice tall tale of freezing Vermonters and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but I actually met. I guess it was a cousin. She was going out with a friend of ours from Berkshire Paranormal, and it ended up being one of my cousins, second cousins actually. She was a Jeru from Swanton, and it was pretty interesting. You know, she just told a few tales of the area, but nothing I hadn't already heard. But it was cool. Huh?
Sounds very cool. Yeah, the frozen people. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's always a good story. Yeah, you gotta love that where they basically, freed their older people for the winter, and then they saw them out once spring hits. So
Yeah, it
that's
was
a
it
pretty.
was supposedly a tall tale, by the fire.
Oh yeah,
Who would outdo who?
who would outdo who? Yep, 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 yeah. That's a good one. Yeah, but that one always, I don't know. Every time winter comes, you just got to share that one. It's like, oh, who wants to try getting frozen and get thawed out in spring? So,
Yeah, right. Yeah,
I mean,
just
I
think of all the
guess,
money you'd save.
I mean, you hear about what is it? Frogs, I think that can do it, where they can freeze and then they can come back to life when the spring. So it's interesting to hear stuff like that. Like, I mean, that's the favorite time of the year for everybody. That's when all the
Mm.
bug go back to hell, as they call it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. They actually do the frog ponds and everything. They actually just in fish,
yep.
they'll go and they'll just boom, like hibernate just about, because under the water line until spring, and then boom.
Yeah, it fascinates me when you really start to look at some of the cool stuff that reptilians and bugs can actually do. So, it's like probably you had to have done it when you were younger, Tom. Like, you caught a fly and you're like, "Oh, I'm gonna get you, fly," and then you stuff them like into something, and then you put them in your freezer, right? And then you think it's dead, and then you take it out maybe, and then because of the warmth to bring it back to life, maybe. You know,
Yeah, I never did it, but I'm sure I know some people who have. Yeah, but yeah, they basically hibernate. Bees, the honeybees, they have fur on them because of that, so they can live through the winter.
yeah, bumblebees. You gotta
Yep.
you gotta appreciate the bumblebees.
Hey, they give us our food.
Without the bees, we would be in trouble for a lot of things.
There's I know, like you were saying about the vampires, uh, some of the earliest cases happened in Vermont. And one of the things that we found out is in Rhode Island is where, it was mostly shed, oh my God, the vampires, Rhode Island, blah, 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 was the vampire capital of New England, while New England's the vampire capital of the world. Well, the first cases that took place in Connecticut, the ones in Connecticut and the ones in Vermont, all those people had moved from Rhode Island. When
Interesting.
when Vermont had opened up as like a statehood, nobody was there. So like, hey, you want some land? We need to like populate this place.
That's true.
So a lot of the Rhode
Um,
Islanders said, hey, yeah, I'm on.
yeah. So I just want to put it on the record just in case. Tom mentioned, like I mentioned, the whole vampires in Vermont thing. I want to make sure that if it's not on the recording already, that it is now. But yes, I did mention something to Tom about the vampires in Vermont. So just in
Mm.
case somebody got confused of like, wait, when did I say that? So yeah, I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. I didn't realize that we were one of the first like cases per se, but that also coincide with what was his name? The Corwin case? Was
Oh
that the
yeah, the
Corwin?
Colwyn case. Yeah, that one they're not sure if it ever really existed, even though some of the names are true. Like because they could never find any of the names in Cushing Cemetery, and they could never find the the what are the cauldron with the ashes and the bull's blood and all that, and so they've taken that. That they've dug up that green many times. Obviously, you got to put sidewalks in, you got to do this, got to do that, put lighting in, and nothing was ever found of that. But the other the Burton case, the Spalding case, that all happened.
Hmm. Yeah, I
Where
know.
the
Oh,
Harris, yeah.
yeah, I know there was. I don't have it in front of me right now, but there was like a newspaper article about the one in Woodstock too. It was like something about vampirism in Woodstock. Um,
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. That would be that was Woodstock's first vampire. It was Frederick Ransom, who wrote a memoir of his brother dying of it. That was the Ransom case. I actually have a copy of the paperwork from the his memoir talking about it.
oh wow, huh? Yeah, I just want to just quickly see if I can find that article real quick, because otherwise I feel like that's gonna bug me. But I want to say it was like October 9th, 18, 1890, October 9th, 1890. It was in the newspaper, and yeah, it was entitled "Vampirism in Woodstock." For anybody that's curious, I guess that would like to look it up. Very fascinating stuff. But so I guess Tom, like, from there, you kind of go through Rutland. There used to be an old inn there that I only just found out from your book. It was called like the Inn at Rutland.
Hmm.
You were mentioning something about in the book about it had two friendly ghosts. Unfortunately, this inn that you speak of is like no longer existing. It turned into something else. I just can't find what it turned into. I drove by it, but I still can't even find like anything more about you know I guess why it disappeared or anything, but it doesn't sound like it didn't last long, unfortunately, from
That's
your
too
book.
bad. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, a little girl on the third floor, right? There was. Who knows if it's still like the building is still standing? That doesn't mean the ghost left. I don't.
Exactly.
I don't think they can get evicted like not like the humans can. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Um, oh yeah. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, Tom. Well, maybe would I mean? So, would you say the only way a ghost could probably get quote evicted would be if the building were to be destroyed?
That's a good question because I have few cases where even though the building was destroyed and something new was put in its place, the energy still stayed in that spot. We were doing an investigation once of a house. It was a new house. It was a new plat. The house was 6 years old, and they see something appear in the garage.
Oh
And
wow!
they even showed me a picture of them going, "Oh Jesus, what the heck is that?" And they're like, "We don't know, but this is what." So I'm saying, looking around, I'm going, "This is a whole new plat except for that house right there." And like about 5 houses down, you can see this nice, tall, old farmhouse. And
Oh
so there's
wow!
the ladies out there, and she's just, doing her little gardening and stuff. So I said, let's go over and talk to her. We go over and talk to her. We're saying, telling her that the flat is new. And she goes, oh, yeah. She goes, I own this whole section here. And I did sell my section, but I forgot she said the name of her neighbor. He sold, his family sold a section after he died, the whole farm. They didn't want anything to do with it. In fact, you see that house right there? And I said, yeah. He goes, he was standing right there the day he died, working in the field.
Wow!
And they built a house right on the spot he died. So there you go.
That seems to happen a lot, especially like with you know, old like burial ground from Indians or something, where they park a house or build a house right on a burial mound. They don't even realize it, and the next thing you know, they're
Yep.
wondering why they're having paranormal experiences, and they can't figure it out. And then it's like, oh well, you know, back in the day, this used to be in an Indian burial. Oh, no
Yeah.
wonder why.
Yeah. Because the Indians didn't exactly make headstones with nice carvings and everything. They, it wasn't something of their culture. So I'm sure they many have been obliterated.
Yeah, unfortunately, I would say. But so Tom, to go back to the inn at Rutland, you were mentioning there was a little girl on the third floor.
Yeah. Um, the I guess the little girl, they think it might have been the Burdett family who, they originally lived in the house. They were the big people who lived in the house, the main characters. But uh, anybody, it could be. I love that when people say, well, they built the house, so it's got to be them. It could have been somebody, a cousin who used to stay there every Wednesday of the, third Wednesday of the month or something. But yeah, the presence is that they just they're happy. They just love being there, and it still must be their home, or it must be somewhere that in life that energy found a nice peace in the area to remain.
That's true. I mean,
I,
they
yeah, when I studied meteorology, I came up with a hypothesis, and that was when you study meteorology and you're predicting weather, you're not predicting weather for a room. You're predicting weather patterns and pressure zones for giant regions. And these pressure zones cause energy to be manipulated and manifested in different ways, like the flooding, the
oh yeah,
rain, the
yep.
hurricanes, the tornadoes. Well, these pressure zones could be as small as a table or a house or a room or, 4 houses large. And causing energy to manifest or be manipulated in a way that their spirits, us, energy being trapped there. And that's your energy, your kind of aura or energy form, and that's where it stays.
So that's why they would say like
It's just
I
a hypothesis.
well that it makes a good point of saying like that's where the I guess it depends on who you want to talk to that would say it, but like in this case, the stain, like that's what like they call it the stain
Yeah.
or the mark of like that's why you may get like a residual haunting, because
Mm-hmm.
it's always repeating. It's because of the mark. So like another pretty famous place that everybody knows in Vermont is where the only battle in Vermont took place, which is Hubbardton Battlefield. And you got to think for something like that went on supposedly somewhere around 3 to 5 hours. So like every time somebody got shot, blood is pouring on the field per se. You got the cannon, the cannons and stuff like that, and people screaming and everything else. It's like that right there is already leaving a imprint of of
Yeah, energy.
the
Yeah.
event, of energy, and then and then later on, as investigators come, they get that residual haunting, which is for those listening, just in case, residual haunting is basically like it's like if you put in your record, like your favorite record, and you listen to it all the way through, and then you repeat it. It's basically that's what a residual haunting is. So, like in this case, the Hubbardton battlefield will just keep repeating itself over and over and over.
Yeah, when the conditions prevail, probably that caused it.
Yeah, exactly. And this past weekend, as I record this is July 11th. This past weekend, so July 8th and 9th, they actually just did the reenactment for Hubbardton Battlefield.
Oh, cool. That's cool.
Yeah, so I almost feel like maybe that might have stirred things up a little bit again.
That would do it. That would definitely do it. You're recreating the moment that happens, and you got all that going on, and it's the same energy feel. And so, why wouldn't it be attracted back over for a bit?
Right. That's true. That's true. That's like another thing that people kind of you can more probably pitch in more than I can, Tom. But it's like perfect example, right? You said you moved into a house that your friend wanted to flip and
Hmm.
and everything else. So I guess real quick to kind of go back to that to kind of make it into this point that I'm trying to get is so as you were living there, even though it was like 6 days, was there any work going on in the house to maybe amp up the the activity? You know what I'm getting at? Like as people start to do restoration to their homes or whatever.
No, actually, what was happening is the other people were just gone, moved out, and then me and my friend moved in. He wanted to move in too. He was going out with my sister at the time. They're like, "Oh, I want to live there," and I'm like, "Well, I guess it's big enough. It's 3 floors. It's big enough to have some extra person in there." So I guess the new strange people, energy, us, um, in the lack of the other energy, which was this guy and his wife and the daughters and everything, probably is what really tilted the scales in that case.
Hmm.
Maybe they didn't like us.
What'd you do, Tom?
Huh?
But would you agree with that though? Like depending on the person or the place, if it needs to get flipped or worked on, do you feel though as like uh restoration to a place, whether it be to restore it or maybe take down a wall because they don't want that wall anymore? Do you feel like that would help or that would trigger the awakening of whatever is lingering there?
Well, this is a great. That's a great. I guess lead into this because when we bought this house, they were the guy William Grinold was bought it really cheap. The guy who had it before us died in the house, right in the bedroom, right where we sleep. He died of a heart attack at like 55, and
Oof.
he started rebuilding it because the house was a wreck. And he had people quitting left and right because they'd be working upstairs. Now we got the wide staircase that, you look down to see like the Beverly Hillbillies one, they goes around the corner just a little. You can see the whole staircase. The guy would have the windowsills of huge shelves because they're those 6 foot windows. It's a Victorian. And they'd maybe hear someone coming. The guy would be working. He'd hear someone coming up the stairs, and he looked over to say hi to somebody, and there's nobody there, but he could hear it. And then his tools would be gone. The guy said he had about 5 or 6 people quit on the spot because of that stuff. And even when we moved in, I mean, it was all ready to go. We had a brand new kitchen, brand new appliances. I didn't like the colors, so we started doing work on it. And everything that just kept going and going and going for 3, 4 years. It was very, very extremely active. They're still here. We still hear them. The things still happen. You still hear the children laughing and running upstairs in the back hallways. You still hear the voices of desperate people at night. You still, hear things going on. You still hear the doors open, and we're the only 2 people in the house. And it's, we lock the doors in the winter and in the summer just to keep the cool air in or the hot air, so yeah, it was always restoration and rebuilding of this place, and it became a hotbed.
Wow. Yeah, so perfect. You know what? I feel like this would be a good way to segue into what I'm about to say again. So obviously some of the old, well, maybe not want to say old, but they like some of the old things that people would say would be like, I watched this person walk through a wall. Like that can't happen.
Mm.
So if we actually, uh, look at it in a way of people would, I guess, would like house blueprints, right?
Mm.
So we can actually take a look at what the layout of the house was originally compared to like what they like somebody like us or you maybe even where we either uh you know e- knock down a wall, or maybe we put up a wall in this case. But
Yeah,
before then, that space used to not have a wall there. So in this case, that spirit that may be going through this wall is just familiar with the way out of the time of them being there.
exactly. Actually, this wall right behind me, right directly behind me, was the doorway to the kitchen. This was a dining room, and the doorway and entryway was directly behind me in the kitchen. Now, if you go through that wall, you're going to end up in the sink, the kitchen sink and dishwasher. That's
Well,
what's
I
on the other
guess.
side of the wall. Mhm.
Well, Tom, is it safe to say then? Have you seen any apparition go through that wall?
No, no, I actually have not.
Huh.
We've just seen them. Yeah, they don't go. They haven't been going through walls. They just walk around. The funniest one is we almost began to joke about it. We'd be sitting watching TV, but we'd be on the other side of the parlor, and we would see someone walking by the front door to the stairs,
Hmm.
and they're going upstairs, and it was pretty interesting because that's all we see is, and our dog chased it one night. He just went roar. We look over, and there's this black figure just walking toward the stairs. And yeah, and incidentally, the guy who owned this house that we bought it from, William Grinold, his brother was Bob Grinold, who owned the White House in Wilmington.
So let's just say that the house that you're currently in is quite old.
Yeah, it was built the wealthiest man. In fact, we have a stained glass window that Louis Tiffany made because he comes from this area.
Huh.
And yeah, and I guess he went around doing for all the wealthy people, he went around making stained glass windows for them when they wanted to, because there's several of them in the neighborhood.
Oh wow. So you technically have like an original stained glass then still.
Yeah, with the his signature dragonfly, butterfly stuff motifs. Yeah, I'm sure it's not worth as much as his lamps because he can't pull it out and bring it around. It's definitely not healthy for the house in a storm either. But yeah, but it's definitely you can it was a Tiffany, just like there's several of them around here. He came from around this here when this Putnam was in 1855. It became its own town. And before that, it was part of Killingley, Pomfret, and Woodstock.
Doc. Fun. Oh man. So I guess is it safe to say then of the spirits that you're dealing with currently in your house, would you say that they're intelligent, like they actually know that you're there and they know like what you've done to your place?
A few of them are, yeah. A few of them are intelligent. What we've done actually is the place looks like you're back in 1920. It's got the original chandeliers. The furniture is from the 17 and 1800s. Any speakers and everything like that are all hidden behind things. We have actually an old 1929 radio, and inside of that is the Alexa.
Oh wow.
You turn it on and it goes on, but we get crappy reception. I mean, we have a radio station down the street. We can't even get it. We get crappy reception here. So the radio does work, but we use it just to put the Alexa in and that kind of thing. So when you walk in, you don't see any modern conveniences. We have candlestick, telephones.
Oh wow, look at that. Oh wow, yeah.
So they're happy with what we do. They're happy. I guess they feel like they're at home.
Well, that's good. I mean,
because they are at home.
Yeah, well, I mean, as long as they don't seem like they're angry at you for
no, they just go on living. Our neighbors have seen them. Our neighbors have come over. Hey, I saw Dell on the balcony last night. The guy who died like 20 years ago almost. And or they'll one guy came to the door. I fixed his truck. He was on a walker. He just had back surgery, and he was like 70, 72 years old, and he couldn't do it. And I'm like, well, I'll fix it. I'll change the transmission line. And he goes, what do I do? I said, nothing. You're my friend and neighbor. I got to charge you for a half hour's work of just hanging out and doing something I love to do anyway. So he bought me a case of beer, and I was out running. He wanted to give me the case of beer. So he cuts across a small yard on the side here, which used to be our carriage house. Go to the back door, knocks on the back door, and the neighbors said they just saw him running across the yard with the walker over his head. And later they said, Tom's house is haunted. Oh yeah, he said he saw a short man, a little heavy set, with a boy in the kitchen. And you can see the whole kitchen. It's a big kitchen, and when you look in the door, you see the whole kitchen.
Huh.
And they looked like they were glowing. It was 1:30 in the afternoon.
Wow.
And then he just ran. And the way he described it, it's Phineas G. Wright, who was the wealthiest man in Putnam, who came from Fitzwilliam, New Hampshire, actually. And before he died, he had a stone made. And on his stone, he had a likeness of him made. And at the bottom of it, it said, "Going, but no, not where." And then he had the grave brick lined and filled with rum. So when the people who buried him were finished, they could drink the rum. And that stone is famous. If you look it up in those books of famous epitaphs and stuff, you'll see it. That's who he saw.
Huh. Perfect.
Because he owned the home.
I'll have to look it up so I can see it for myself now.
Yeah.
I guess, Tom, to kind of, wrap things up for this chat a little bit, because I don't want to take too much more of your time, but, so almost every year, people are starting to, want to get the thrill of ghost hunting. And one thing that I love about your book for Haunted Vermont is in the back, you did like a bonus chapter about your ghost hunting equipment.
Yeah.
So I guess what I just wanted to, get to is, like, so if I wanted to start a paranormal group again, what would you suggest for new people, equipment wise and everything else?
Well, one thing I always say is you don't need to go out and start spending $800-900 for a unit and this and that and the other thing, because first of all, an EMF meter is great, but it's not going to be conclusive evidence. So if you've got a decent tape recorder, we actually use because we have a family music store. So I got one of the best digital recorders you can buy, but we actually use reel-to-reel recorders from the 1960s as well.
Oh wow!
They're still the greatest medium for audio ever, created by man. And so I tell them, just you go out, get a recorder. Your phone's got one, but get a recorder that you can handheld, nice. Get a video camera or any camera. Cheap digital cameras will pick up orbs because they pick up the first thing that moves and amplifies it. Magnify it, and that's what it focuses on. So get either an SLR or 35 millimeter, anything like that, and you can get a few items. You don't have to go break the bank, because you are the most important piece of equipment. It's you. You're nice to them. You interact nice. Your aura, is nice and wide in energy and everything. And there's something there that's going to say, so you're going to treat them like, hey, this is a big get together, and we're all just part of it. And that's how we always approach it, my wife and I. And she uses tarot cards too, and we use dowsing rods, and we use pendulums, and we use, REM pods and all the latest and greatest spirit boxes and that kind of stuff. And so we go from the oldest to the latest, all mixed in. And you don't need a ton of stuff. If they're going to speak to you, they're going to get it. If they don't want to hear it from you, you could have, a room full of $500,000 of equipment, and it's going to go nowhere. So you are the best thing you've got.
I can't beat that. But tarot cards, that's interesting. So how does that work?
Well, she's been reading tarot cards and forever, and how she does it is, I could say, hey, do you like pizza, or this, that, and the other thing? But she just works off the energy of the room, spreads the cards out, and if there are people there, she'll have them pick a card if they feel anything, or she'll pick one, and then she'll start using it to field questions. And we've had an insane success rate at this.
Huh.
We've been doing it now. We've been doing it for like over 15, 16 years like that, if not longer, maybe to 2000. Wow, almost 20 years. We've been using the tarot card for 20 years, since about 2001 to field of questions, and we've got some amazing results,
Huh.
EVPs and stuff.
That's crazy. I've never heard of anybody using tarot card for like an investigation like that. That's so interesting. Do you have like any do you have like a YouTube channel where you post videos and stuff like that, or do
Well, we
you?
did have a Spirits Meet Science one where we did with Gary McKinstry, but we have them on the Dining with the Dead 1031.com. We have a few on there too.
So the
Um,
tarot card would be on that on the Dining with the
if
Dead.
she's using them during an investigation, yeah. We should put one where she is using them. I mean, she's using them all the time, but if something happened during the investigation with the cards, yeah, we definitely have it on there. Because at one point we were doing a place in the Bramtail factory, and Pele Walker died suddenly. They say, they think maybe he was murdered, and this was in 1822. But then at that point, uh, only Potter became the main factory owner with his father. He suddenly died, and his wife became the owner of the factory. So she's drawing these cards, and she says, "Who's the woman in charge of finances?" When we listen back later, we get an EVP that says Aura. His wife's name was Aura Potter.
Oh wow,
ORRA, yeah.
wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, so I mean, we've had this kind of success with it. Where okay, that's a good question because we didn't even know that was out of the blue, but yet
Right.
there it was.
Huh.
It was a lot better than Do You Like Pizza?
Well, I mean, did you ever get your answer about pizza? Did they hate it? Did they like
Nah,
it?
nobody. I guess ghosts don't really care for pizza.
Well, I mean, I guess it all depends on the spirit, I guess.
Yeah. Mhm.
Another interesting thing, real quick, Tom, and you don't really hear these either mentioned too much more anymore. Just because of they're a great source to find in water, which is the dowsing rods. You don't really hear too much of that anymore. So I guess for somebody like me, even who's curious about possibly using dowsing rod, like um, what would you suggest of like how I could like get used to a dowsing rod to know what is water or what.
Yeah, the dowsing rods actually just work off energy basically, and of course the dowsers, the better that you get at it. It's like anything. Some people could really feel it, they're tingly. What the best way to do it is to just sit there and practice holding them to keep them steady first, and then you program them. Show me yes, and yes could. Some people like yes being out, and some people like yes being in, and then the opposite, and show me no, show me right, show me left. So once you've programmed them, then you can ask, yes or no questions and things like that, and they should work somewhat. My wife does really great dowsing. She's really. One time we were doing a. She was joking around. She goes, "Watch this! It can even tell you direction. Show me north." And the thing kept going this way, and I got the compass. I'm going the compass in my hand, and I'm going, that's going west on you. That's going west. And she goes, "Show me north." Well, she wasn't very specific because this guy raises his hand. He goes, "My name is James North." And it kept pointing right towards him.
Oh wow.
So she should have said, "Show me the compass point north." So I guess you
Wow.
also got to be a little very specific as well.
Now, when you're saying to get used to holding them, like, should I kind of like gently be holding them, or should I really be holding them?
If you have the ones with the sleeves, you can hold them. I don't crush them, but I just hold them nicely. But if they don't have the sleeves and just rods, yeah, they should be able to. You should be able to swing them in your hand like this before steadying them, and then not let the ends touch or anything like that. If you rest them the edges on your fingers, that may interrupt everything. The angle, which is why the ones with sleeves are really nice.
Hmm.
They actually make sets now that fold into looks like a pen. You open them up and put them out like an antenna.
Oh wow. I have not seen that.
Yeah, they're easy to. You can get them anywhere, and they're great for if you put in your kit because they don't take up a lot of room once they're folded, and they don't
Huh.
work any different than the others.
So I guess then, so how would I know it's if it's a spirit versus like water or something? So how would I really know that? Like, is there a certain way to know?
If you're looking for water, you would probably be facing downward with them. And then these dowsers were really good. They feel the vibration. They see like the sticks. They twitch, and they twitch because it's them actually too. Because we are attracted to water because we're like, what, I forgot how much percentage, like 80% water or something,
Yeah, something like
75%
that.
water. And so obviously we'd be attracted to water ourselves, and so would a wooden stick or something. And most dowsers use wood for that because of that reason. It's like the weather sticks, your Vermont weather sticks. I got two of them. I got one hanging in the front yard and one hanging in the back. They go
Perfect.
up when it's good. They go down when it rains.
Perfect. So, I guess real quick is like you were mentioning getting the dowsing rod. So sometimes people feel like uh, sometimes they don't want to run out and buy it. So I guess their next method would be like clothes hanger. Would you would you say that works as good, like clothes hangers?
Yeah, they do. Actually, yeah, anything works like that as long as you make it so it's free, straight, and and you can actually steady them and they won't move. If you and we've actually made them out of clothes hangers too and used with great results. And I have a few friends. In fact, my buddy Carl Johnson, who used to be on the Ghost Hunter show, he makes them out of clothes hangers, nice long ones, and he curls up the ends and everything, and he's had some really good results with them.
Perfect. Yeah, cause I think a long time ago we tried using clothes hangers for one of our investigations, and I forget it's how if we really got anything with them or if we just felt we weren't using them properly. But yeah, we were using clothes hangers.
Yeah. Yeah, I put it in a vise, about handle length, and then I tap it down so the vise makes a perfect 90-degree angle there.
Perfect. Yeah, yeah. I want to say we did something similar with that. We used like the hook part to try to use that as the
Oh yeah.
holding.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Uh, um, I guess Tom. So before we, once again, thanks for your time, Tom.
Oh, thank
I
you. This is awesome.
and and I was hoping, like I was mentioning to you off the air. So once again, I'll bring up the whole vampire thing. I was really hoping I would have that book that I, think I ordered from you. The history of England. Or
The vampires in New England, yeah.
yeah, thank you.
Well,
And
through.
yeah, so I mean, hopefully we can get that squared away, but if not, then we'll figure it out. But anyway, maybe what we can do, maybe around the end of September, beginning of October, we can come back together and talk vampires in Vermont. That would be
Yeah, that'd be
fun.
cool. That'd be awesome.
But for people that would want to, get in contact with you, see what you are up to and stuff, where can people, go to? I know you have quite a few websites, which you mentioned one of like a few
Yeah.
times.
We have www.tomdagostino.com. That's just my name. And then there's www.diningwiththedead1031.com. That shows all the events we're doing, the Ghost Hunt events also. And 1031 being Halloween. And and those two are the ones where you can look on, see what's going on, what we're up to. You can contact us. We always tell people, if you have any of our books and you go somewhere and something happens, please email us. Let us know. We'd love to hear it.
Perfect. Yeah, that's how I reached out to you anyway, was through your website. So I just didn't know what I should pick because you had the required thing for like, was it a presentation, was it this or that? So I think I just clicked on like presentation because I just felt like that seemed
That's
more
good enough for
logical.
me.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, Tom. Well, thanks again for your time, and yeah, we'll touch base sometime in September, or October to see what availability we both have. But it was a pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, you too. Thanks. Awesome.
Yeah, and for everybody else listening, thanks so much. And like Tom said, if you visit a location and something happens, reach out to us and share your stories.
Definitely.